It's time for our discussion segment. Now, today we'll be talking about a topic that has been on, it's always been on everyone's mind for a while now, especially when it comes up every time in the news. I would say Nigerians have grown a certain level of cushion and immunity towards it. We just say, so long as it's available for us to use, then we're going to keep surviving. We shouldn't be. But today we'll be talking about the petrol price war and the unfolding issues in the downstream sector of the oil industry. Now, recent data shows that the landing cost of premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, has reduced to 922 naira 65 kobo per liter, down from the 955 naira per liter offered at the loading gantry of the Dangote Petroleum Refinery. Now, this reduction in landing cost is expected to influence the price at which petrol is sold to consumers and could increase marketers' interest in returning to petrol imports. However, despite this reduction, the retail price of petrol in Nigeria has still remained high, with major marketers continuing to sell refined products between 990 naira and 1,010 naira per liter in the Federal Capital Territory. And this has raised questions about the pricing mechanisms and the factors influencing the cost of petrol in Nigeria. Furthermore, fresh findings have shown that oil marketers imported a total of 57,301 metric tons of fuel between January 22nd, 2025, between January 21st and January 22nd, 2025, which is equivalent to about 76.84 million liters of petrol. And this has sparked concerns about the agreement among stakeholders to stop importing refined petroleum products for 180 days to allow the Dangote refinery to prove its production. Now, put today's all together, what does this mean for the fact that Nigeria wants to be self-sufficient in its own production of petroleum? What does this mean if we're still looking at importing due to the lower cost at this point in time? Put this all together. We'll be having our guests. We're joined, by Steve Nwachukwu, a renowned economic analyst, financial analyst, and lead researcher at Steward Asset Management Limited. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Okay, thank you for having me, and beautiful morning.
It's good to have you. Good morning. All right, let's talk about this whole, pricing of petrol. What's your take on it? 922 naira for importing and 955 naira at Dangote refinery. What does this mean? What do you take out of this?
Well, I would rather prefer to start on the note you earlier made in your last segment of your program, where you talk about what Nigerians want.
Yeah.
What I make of it cannot be different from what Nigerians want. When your closing remark in that segment, you talked about what Nigerians want and the responsibilities of Nigerians and those of our leaders. What Nigerians want cannot be far from a stable market price, a fair value for our money, availability of these very petroleum products, and price sanity. That's just what Nigerians want. So what can I make of the recent development? It falls short of these very basic wants and needs of Nigerians to make sure that these products are available, to make sure that the price disparity or the price war that is going on is curtailed. That's exactly what Nigerians want from the political leadership and those of them who controls this very sector. So it's unfortunate that your report also stated that over 78% of these very petroleum products are imported.
Yeah.
It doesn't sell, or it doesn't tell well, or perhaps we may also lose trust in Dangote, just as we've lost trust in NNPC. I think that's what Dangote should watch out for. The trust that Nigerians have put on that very petrochemical company over these very few 2, 3, 4 years that we've been expecting Dangote to, help us reduce this cost, help us stabilize, and help us meet these basic three needs or four needs that Nigerians want from our key industrial players in the petroleum sector. So Dangote may also stand that very risk of losing the trust of Nigerians, in the sense that we expected Dangote as a messiah, and as we speak, the imported volume is still exceeding the Dangote production. I know that Dangote understands this very sector very well. I also understand the challenges that Dangote have recently undergone with these very regulatory bodies and some of the key players in the same sector. Like I said again, we have so much trust on Dangote. We see Dangote as our messiah. He should live up to expectation and make sure that he closes this gap as soon as possible, because I understand that he has the capacity to do it. Despite the regulatory bodies or the interplay of politics around that, I'm very sure that this price war or price disparity can be controlled by Dangote. I also understand, yes, that is beyond the Dangote power, in the sense that the interplays that determine the depot price of petroleum product is not just in the hands of Dangote, but somehow, because he has this very structural advantage, he has this infrastructural advantage, he can actually have some level of sanity, or we can have some level of sanity through his input, through his production, through the product he pushes out to the market. So what I make of it is that we don't need this.
Okay.
This is falling short of the expectations of Nigeria. We need price sanity, we need availability of this product, and we need some value to the money Nigerians are spending to buy this product.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. But let's do a quick backstory. I'd love to get your thought on this. As one who is a financial expert and a lead researcher, prior to Dangote's coming on board, with all the factors that came to play, we saw the initial struggle of if crude was going to be sold in naira or dollars. We saw the initial talk of likelihood of him importing crude for his business. Given all the factors that came to play and the role of the global prices when it comes to fuel production, did you really think Dangote was going to be a messiah?
Well, the truth is, yes, when I use the word messiah, I carefully use that word because most of us expected so much from Dangote, but not understanding the fact that those who also supported Dangote, those in the corridors of power who helped, who provided resources, because it's not easy to raise those billions of dollars to buy those equipment and pay contractors that built that very 650,000 capacity refinery. So there was also some levels of commitment, support from those in the corridors of power. So on that ground, we felt, yes, everything was done, but we saw the new sheriff in town, and maybe there may be undertones, so other things that went on, and we did not see that level of support. So that's why I carefully use that word messiah. Yes, things changed, and we start seeing the disposition of those in the government against the petroleum refinery of Dangote, perhaps maybe because of not meeting up with their own interests, or maybe of shortfalls on the side of Dangote, because even as we welcome Dangote, or we expect Dangote to rescue the crisis we are having in the petroleum sector, we also need some level of upper hand from the regulatory body to make sure that the market is not totally monopolized. So I think from that angle, yes, you can justify some of the deals or some of the developments that have happened between the Dangote refinery and those of them in the regulatory body. So, of course, yes, Dangote cannot control the international selling price of petroleum products. Dangote can only control the cost of producing, this cost of production, and put some level of marginal profit. That's the expected. That is where the key. The structure is the messiah I'm talking about. The infrastructure. We just celebrated the revamping of the Port Harcourt refinery and Warri refinery, which we cannot still account the size and quantity of petroleum product that is going on there. That's why I keep saying the messiah is in the structure, the messiah is in the facility, the messiah is having a 650,000 production capacity. And if we can have that touch of government, that sympathy, that synergy from government, would have had some level of stability as we speak. Yes, the infrastructure is there, but we are seeing some lukewarm attitude. We are seeing some level of anti-Dangote coming off from the regulatory bodies, and that is why perhaps what we expected from Dangote is not what. But like I keep saying again, like I said earlier, Dangote may also stand to lose the trust that Nigeria had vested upon that very factory. So he needs to do all his best to ramp up production, to make sure that this very price war, that he has an edge over them, because I know for sure the facility and infrastructure is there for him to wage this war. No matter what the force or more, no matter what the underplay may be, he has the factory, he has the facility. I know he's not going to be a Father Christmas, but he needs to stand his ground and make sure that the price controlled or price of this very petroleum product favors his factory, because we can't take away the ability of having such factory or having such facility that can reduce the cost of this very petroleum, no matter how powerful the cabals are, no matter how powerful they are. The imported petroleum product can never be higher in price or cheaper in price than the local refined. Yes, I understand he has challenges of receiving this petroleum product from the regulatory bodies or receiving crude from the regulatory bodies. It has challenges. He should do his best to play in this market. Our hope still hangs on him. We have lost hope in NNPC. We continue to see the charade that is going on. Today, the Port Harcourt refinery is producing less than 50% of its capacity. Tomorrow, Warri refinery, and we are still having over 78% imported petroleum products. It's a shame on all of us.
Which is wrong. Now, we know that, one of the expectations Nigerians had, and even the government had from Dangote refinery, was it was going to make us self-sufficient when it comes to production and consumption of petrol, which has been the dream of Nigeria, with hopes that it's going to see a regulated price. But like you said, having the international market prices cheaper than what we have produced locally. Now, what does this mean towards our aim at being self-sufficient in production of petroleum here in the country? And at this point in time, can the regulatory bodies actually do anything, being that the owners and these marketers are business owners, and business owners will obviously go for a cheaper one that will give them more profit? So what roles can the regulatory bodies put to play, and how does this underscore Nigeria's dream of wanting to be self-sufficient when it comes to production of crude oil and petroleum? Petrol.
Okay, I think the self-sufficient angle of it is well settled. We have Dangote with 650,000 production capacity. Yes, currently there are maybe 50% of that, the capacity is under, but maybe around 300,000 they can produce in a day, or even 200. Then plus it the Port Harcourt refinery of 60,000. That's, let's use 300 for Dangote, 60,000 for Port Harcourt. That's about 360,000 barrels. To 600 and yes, the 360,000 barrels. Multiply it by 150 or 160 per liter for each of the crude, or that for each barrel. We have more than self-sufficiency. In fact, we are even a net exporter of petroleum products. That's simply what it means. So as we speak now, we shouldn't have any issues around the capacity of being self-sufficient. In fact, there are reports out there that Nigeria now is a net exporter. But this news of importing over 78% of our consumption is still raveled in secrecy, or raveled in some of these very deals that you see the old NNPC continues to indulge in. Now, when we talk about the interplay of the petroleum price, it can be far from the three basic things. One is the selling price of petroleum product in the international market. It can be controlled by Dangote, neither will it be controlled, but it can be partially controlled by our Nigerian government if they decide to, bring some level of contingencies or some level of subsidy of whatever level to this very body or to Nigeria, to have our own petroleum products sold in our own price. Yes, government can intervene, but now the regulation have taken place and we don't have subsidy anymore. But the point is, Dangote and Nigerian government cannot control this very first angle of the crude selling price of the international selling price of crude. Then the second is the cost of producing this very product when you move this very crude to those factories that I'm seeing on your screen there. those facilities, there are basic costs to produce, to run the process of refining this product. So there are basic costs. Then you will now bring in the marginal profit that these very facilities managers and the owners like Dangote and NNPC, which is now fully commercialized, is not totally for the welfare of the government of people anymore. So they will put their own marginal profit because of the maintenance of such facilities, and to be able also to have return on investment. So when you add a return on investment on those facilities, that's the depot price. The retail price varies from city to city. The price of petroleum products like PMS, diesel sold in Lagos cannot be the same as the price sold in Kaduna or sold in Jos or sold in Maiduguri, because of the government have totally deregulated. There is no longer equalization fund anymore to augment the cost of haulage, the cost of moving this product from the production area to the hinter area. So these are the basic things. So you can not control the first tranche of this very process, which is international selling price of crude, but within the production cost can be managed and the retail price can be managed. If we are not too greedy, the price should be relatively okay. From the side of the Dangote and to the side of the retailers, both the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, down to the Major Marketers Association, who also has the license to import this petroleum product to Nigeria. So these are the areas. If they are not too much greedy, I'm very sure we should be having something less than this 955 or 970 that is currently stands as the S depot price for NNPC and Dangote, or perhaps what the retailers are selling in their fleet station. Some are selling above 990, some are selling 1,000 and above, and all the rest. So there should be some sense of nationality, some sense of patriotism in these layers of process. Like I said again, the international selling price of good is beyond the control of the Nigerian government and these very industry players. But the production costs and the marginal profit that may be added as a result of return on investment can be managed if we take away greed.
All right.
Thank you.
Before I get to, I would also love to have a quick follow-up question on that. But before I get to that now, would you say monopoly would solve this problem? Say, would that a policy of wanting monopoly for just refineries in Nigeria to supply petroleum products to Nigerians, closing the borders to to importation and reliance on global prices, would it make any difference in the market?
Well, depending from the angle you are looking or considering monopoly, if you are looking at it from that social point of view, if it's a government state-owned facility, yes, monopoly is good in that regards because they are people-oriented, they are not profit-oriented. But when you look at it from the perspective of a capitalist who has a lot of, interest to recover his funds within a 1 year or 6 months, who also has this very profit-oriented. Yes, monopoly in that regard is not good. And I'm sure maybe that is what the regulatory body is trying to checkmate Dangote in regards to that. But for sure, yes, you can monopolize the market and have these products made available to Nigeria and have some level of sanity in their price control. So monopoly in one hand can be managed. Monopoly in one hand can be also can also serve for good purpose to the people. But most often, when you left monopoly in the hands of the capitalists, they seems to use that very tool to perhaps cheat the people and also to impoverish the people. So government needs some level of stabilization of varieties of opinions, of varieties of products, of sources for the markets. Nigeria is too big for a one source to be the major source, just like we had in the last 2-3 years when an NPC totally monopolized the market. They are the sole importer of this very product. Now they have a competitor, which is Dangote Petroleum refinery, and the fight will continue to go until they all find their level playing ground. And I'm very sure that Dangote has what it takes to stabilize the market.
All right, now, in comparison to other climes, we know that there are other countries who rely on imported petroleum products. In comparison to other climes, what do you think Nigeria can do to create, a structural or policy change that could create a more stable and competitive market in such a way that even the consumers would benefit from the cost of petrol in Nigeria?
Well, I think it's a fair treatment of the key players in the sector. If you have a good playing ground, give everybody the opportunity. Don't shut your doors against other smaller modular refineries that may spring up, because if you depend on one source alone, you may have issues in time ahead. So you need to open and have a broader perspective of welcoming. Just like we anticipate that Bua Petroleum will also refinery will also be on stream in next 2 or 3 years, and we also have other entrepreneurs who has the desire of building smaller and quite smaller modular refineries that can serve some level of catchment. It can serve some communities and towns and the rest of them. So yes, it's from that perspective of government who has this very intention to make the market more viable, make the market more competitive, so that you can have some level of controls of those who may wish or has a tendency of monopolizing the market. So the regulatory agencies don't need to be fair to all, both the top players and the low players in the sector. That's where you can have that sanity, and you can also have some level of control.
All right, now quickly before we go, this price disparity that we have now, which is at 35, 32 naira price disparity that we have now, does this mean that in the short term we're going to see imported products dominate the market? And what does this mean, and how would this affect Nigerians in the long run?
That was why in my opening remark I said Dangote should be watchful so that it doesn't lose the trust of Nigeria. I don't know how I can factor, I don't know how I can put the metrics together to justify why an imported petroleum product will be cheaper than locally refined products. So the Dangote should start seeing the signal that these guys he is in competition with, are doing all their best to buy the consciousness or to buy the goodwills of Nigerians, and we may possibly lose the trust we have vested on Dangote, just like we've lost the trust on NNPC. So Dangote should understand that, and that price disparity sends some level of shocks to some of us. We wished, we hoped, we expected the Dangote petroleum, which is locally refined, to be more cheaper to that of the imported. Like I said, I can still unravel why an imported petroleum product is cheaper than the locally refined product. Yes, you can also give it that, yes, the price you are having perhaps because it takes a cargo to land in the shores of Nigeria takes minimum of 50 days or 45 days, depending where they are importing from. So maybe 45 days ago, the price was relatively okay, or when they made the purchase, when they produced the crude, remember the major factor here is the selling price of the crude in the international market. If the price was selling, assuming at $70 per barrel when they made their purchase, and it landed 45 days ago or landed 45 days after, and the price of crude has perhaps gone up to 78, it simply means that the imported petroleum product of 45 days ago should be cheaper than that of the current price. So, but like whatever be it, Dangote should be watchful of this development, and so that they don't lose that trust Nigeria has on them. The price of Dangote petroleum products should be far cheaper to that of the imported. Yes, the major contending factor is the international selling price of crude, and which controls greater percentage of this very cost. I understand that the crude controls better or greater percentage of the final product or the output. But Dangote should do as much as possible to relatively lower the return on investment input and cost of production, which I know is fixed, and to see that this price have a relative price better and higher competitive in those imported products. I am not saying that importing these products is totally evil, but the point is we can be exporting jobs, and we can be exporting jobs, or rather importing jobs into Nigeria. We should be encouraging the local refinery who have engaged millions of Nigerians, so that those factories and production sites will keep running and Nigerians will be engaged and have some level of engagement as employment. So that's why perhaps most of us will encourage that of the local refinery.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Steve Nwachukwu, for joining us on the discussion segment this morning. It's always a pleasure to have you join us on the show. Thank you so much.
Always my pleasure.
All right, if you're just joining us, well, unfortunately, we've come to the end of that discussion segment. We're having a chat with Steve Nwachukwu, a renowned economist, financial analyst, and lead researcher at Steward Assets. Well, we're talking about, the price disparity in the cost of petrol, the price war, and how imported petrol is now cheaper than locally refined petrol, which is something worth talking about. I hope you've been able to pick something from our conversation this morning.